Hi Sam, it's such a pleasure to see you today in real after all these years.
Thank you.
I will be asking you questions, and there is also Alfie and Olivier. Can you present yourself to the French?
Thank you. I'm Sam Vaknin. I'm a professor of psychology. I, in the 1980s, was the first to describe narcissistic abuse. I coined most of the language in use today in the field. And I wrote a book, Malignant Self Love, Narcissism Revisited, which by now is a mantra. And I published this book in 1999, long before anyone was talking about narcissism and so on. And I've been studying the phenomenon of narcissistic abuse for more than 30 years, because I think it's a unique form of abuse. And I think the impacts that it has not only on individuals, but on societies, on cultures, on political processes, on the economy, the impacts are enormous. And if we come to discuss it a bit later, narcissism is not only a trait, not only a disorder. Narcissism is also an organizing principle of our culture and civilization. Narcissism is a way to interpret reality, to make sense of it. And narcissism is also an agenda that dictates decisions on various spheres and levels, economic decisions, business decisions, political decisions, and so on. When you live in an environment that is so imbued with narcissism, it is very difficult. You have to take sides. You can either become a narcissist or you become the victim of a narcissist. Civilization forces you nowadays to take sides, and you must become one of the two.
Wow.
And so I saw that in the 80s and 90s, because I'm as old as the dinosaurs, and I started my work then.
So many people see you as a reformed narcissist or an insider observer. Do you identify with that image?
I have information that I derive from my diagnosis, but that is very long in the past. I have spent the last 30 years studying narcissism and teaching narcissism in universities and other settings. I have a database of 2,200 and something people diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. I've been following up on these people, not all of them, about 80%. I've been following up on them for 30 years, so I have a longitudinal study of narcissism and narcissists. I think it's the biggest database in the world, by far. For you to understand, the average number of narcissists in a typical study in academia, in psychology, the average number is 5 people. A study with 8 people is considered to be already, a huge, big study. And my database is 2,000 something. So no, my work today is not informed by my psychology or my life anymore. It reflects information about thousands of people with narcissistic personality disorder.
Some countries, like France, for example, don't really quite well recognize narcissism. While Racamier, at the time, who was French, recognized it. What do you think about these countries? Shouldn't it be international?
Well, first of all, there were major scholars, for example, Theodore Millon, who believed that narcissistic personality disorder is an American phenomenon. Millon said that this is a diagnosis that reflects American culture and society. And Millon was a major figure in psychology. It's not a small time, He's together with Otto Kernberg, is among the giants of the field. And he fully suggested that it is a phenomenon limited to the United States. The International Classification of Diseases, which is the book published by the World Health Organization, and is the diagnostic manual, which is used by 80% of humanity. 80% of humanity uses the ICD, not the DSM. In the ICD, there is no diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. There's no such thing. So it's a big debate whether narcissistic personality disorder is what we call a culture-bound syndrome. Culture-bound syndrome is a set of behaviors and traits that make an appearance in highly specific cultures, periods in history, civilizations and societies, but do not make an appearance elsewhere. That is not to say that you don't have French narcissists.
Of course.
I have lived here and I can tell you, you have French narcissists. But the question arises whether this is a pathology or not. For example, maybe it's a personality style. Maybe there are people who are like that, obnoxious, lacking empathy, exploitative, not sensitive, full of rage and envy, passive-aggressive. Maybe you have people like that. Maybe, in other words, what we call today pathological narcissism is part of the spectrum and the diversity of the human race. We do not need to pathologize it. Similarly, there's a similar debate about psychopathy. Psychopaths are people who do not obey the law, do not obey rules. They are their own masters. They are usually lone wolves. They are contumacious. They reject authority. They are reckless. They are defiant. And so they're not pleasant people to be with, and you wouldn't want to do business with them or to get married to them, usually. Does this make them mentally ill? Is this a mental illness? I personally don't think that psychopathy is a mental illness at all.
Why?
Because I think it's a social problem, not a mental problem, not a medical problem, not a clinical entity, not a diagnosis. It's a problem with society. These people have problem to function socially. It's not a problem. It's not their problem. It's a problem of society. So it's the same with narcissism. There's a big debate, and the ICD is offering another attitude, another direction. The ICD, International Classification of Diseases, edition 11, that's the latest edition. The ICD suggests the following. They say, don't talk about narcissism, don't talk about psychopathy, don't talk about any of these. These are artificial distinctions, artificial diagnoses. They're not real. And they reflect cultural values, social values, mores, conventions, norms. They're not medical. It's not a medical clinical entity. Instead, what the ICD is doing, what they suggest to do, they say like that, take various traits, like Lego, playing Lego. Take various traits, put them together, take various behaviors, put them together, and create a profile that is unique to every client and every patient. So if you come to a clinician who is using ICD, the clinician will identify your traits, will identify your behaviors, and will create a profile that is unique only to Antoine, will not apply to Olivier, will not apply to me, and there's no way to generalize this profile. We see the same approach nowadays in medicine, where we are beginning to tailor treatments according to the specific genetics of the individual. There is customized medicine, tailored medicine. And ICD is saying the same. We need to get rid of all these categories, all these diagnoses.
Labels.
Sorry?
These labels.
Yes,
Labels.
we need to get rid of labels. We need to get rid of all this. It's not working also. Because today, if you diagnose someone with narcissistic personality disorder, in about 40% of the cases, you have also to diagnose them with borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, mood disorder, substance use disorder, and so on. A typical patient in the United States has 7 diagnoses.
It's a comorbidity.
Yes, and that is the comorbidity problem. There are other issues I will not go into.
Sam, I have a question for you so that our audience will understand the basics. According to your experience now, what would be a simple and clear definition of narcissism to you so that audience would understand it very clearly?
Depends what you're talking about. It's like you would ask me for a definition of a woman. Depends, Ça dépend.
Ça dépend.
Okay.
So, and I'm being serious. I will explain what I just said. Narcissism is a trait, and as a trait, all human beings have this trait of narcissism. You could have low narcissism, high level, high intensity, low intensity, but all human beings have the trait of narcissism because the trait of narcissism is genetic. We all inherit a trait of narcissism. We don't know exactly which genes code for narcissism, We don't know which gene arrays collaborate to create narcissism or to express narcissism, but we know for sure that there is a trait, it is hereditary, and therefore it is 100% genetic. So this is number one. You have developmental narcissism. We know that when a child is born, in the initial phases up to age 36 months, it's very healthy to have narcissism. Children are narcissists. And we call it primary narcissism. This kind of narcissism remains with you for life. And this is known as healthy narcissism. We all have, you have healthy narcissism. Healthy narcissism is the foundation of self-esteem and self-confidence and the ability to even to interact with other people. So healthy narcissism is also narcissism. Then you have societal or cultural narcissism, which is infectious, it's contagious. As I said, if you grow up in a narcissistic society, narcissistic civilization and so on, you will gradually develop narcissistic traits, narcissistic defenses, narcissistic behaviors. You will be infected with narcissism. Similarly, if you live with a narcissist, if you share your life with a narcissist, as a business partner, as an intimate partner, never mind, if you're exposed to a narcissist, you will develop narcissistic traits and behaviors. So this is, let's call it contagious narcissism, or societal, cultural, whatever. And finally you have the disorder. So the disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, is very rare, actually.
It's 1%?
It's about 1.7%. 1.7% of the general population have a narcissistic personality disorder. That means 1 of every 60 people. The truth is that you are extremely unlikely to have had a deep, meaningful relationship with a narcissist unless you have had 60 such relationships. So most people don't. And so when people say narcissism online, narcissism, there is a huge confusion. They confuse narcissism with psychopathy. They confuse societal and cultural narcissism with individual narcissism. They confuse the disorder with a trait. So you have self-styled experts online, they say narcissism is genetic.
Speaking about it, yes.
It's genetic, hereditary. Pathological narcissism is not genetic or hereditary. The trait is genetic, hereditary, and if the trait is exposed to certain environment, for example, abuse in early childhood or trauma in early childhood, then the trait becomes malignant, like cancer, becomes malignant, and then you have pathological narcissism. But there is a confusion. So you have self-styled experts telling you it's genetic. The confusion is enormous, and it's extremely problematic, even in academia. I'm criticizing now the online sphere, but even in academia, there is a huge confusion. For example, many of the studies about narcissistic personality disorder deal with people who have comorbidities. So you have studies, including recent studies, on narcissistic personality disorder, and they make all kinds of statements, and they go to the media and so on and so forth. And then you go to the study, and all the people in the study also have borderline personality disorder, also have substance use disorders, also have anxiety and depression and so on, and therefore the sample is contaminated, and you cannot say anything meaningful. Even worse, in, I would say, 50-60% of the studies, they deal with dark personalities. Dark personalities are dark triad and dark tetrad personalities. These are people who are not narcissists. They are not psychopaths. People with dark personalities are not narcissists, and they're not psychopaths. They are subclinical narcissists and subclinical psychopaths.
Dark personality, it's dark triad or something
dark
else?
Triad,
Dark triad. Okay.
Dark tetrad also. Dark tetrad is dark triad plus sadism.
Oh.
So dark triad, you have subclinical narcissism, subclinical psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, manipulativeness. If you add to that sadism, you have dark tetrad. And I suggested, by the way, kind of a heptagram, I suggested a five-sided dark personality with borderline, with emotion dysregulation. Okay, but coming back to the point, people, including scholars, including academics, they make the mistake. They confuse dark personalities with narcissism. What does it mean, subclinical narcissism? It means someone who could not be diagnosed with narcissism. That's why we call it subclinical, not clinical. But many of the studies deal with dark personalities and they say these are narcissists, which is wrong. The field is in a bloody mess, excuse the French, yes? It's in a big mess. And it's very, very difficult to make sense of what's happening, not only online, but also in academia. And there is a huge confusion. And there are people, even in academia, who want to make money and want to become famous for 15 minutes, and so they come with all kinds of nonsense, like dark empath and I don't know what else. And so you need to be very, very careful who you're listening to. For example, there is someone called Keith Campbell. That's a real expert on narcissism. We disagree on many things, and he is not my fan, to use an understatement. He's highly critical of me. We just gave 2 interviews to New York Magazine, and he criticized me, and I criticize him, of course. But he is authority for me. He is an expert. I'm listening to him. I'm reading him. I'm learning from him. Absolutely. Even though he's not my fan, and I'm not. There's no ego here. I am a very arrogant man, but when it comes to intellect and learning, I'm a very humble man. Very humble. I learn from, but I see that maybe in the whole world there are 5 people I'm willing to listen to when it comes to narcissism. Maybe 5. I'm not sure. Otto Campbell, very few people. The rest is a huge mess.
You said a sentence that is so hard, and I'm still thinking about it. You said one day, and excuse me if the quote is wrong, the narcissist is an emotional corpse dead inside. Can you speak a little bit about it?
Yeah, that's not my invention. It's the common view since at least the 60s. It is now widely accepted in all the schools of psychology. It's widely accepted that at the core of pathological narcissism, there is a vast emptiness where a person should have been, where a self should have been, or Freud called it ego, never mind, where some structure, some construct should have been, there is nothing. What is the self, or the ego, or whatever you want to call it? It's a sense of continuity, a sense that you are the same person, never mind how you change physically, never mind how you age, you learn more, you have experiences, you change your beliefs, you change your values, you change location, you have an accident, you're amputated, it doesn't matter. In all these situations, you maintain a core sense, I am me. This I am me is what we call self. The narcissist did not have the opportunity to develop this sense of continuity. There was a disruption in the formation of this core identity. Consequently, where there should have been a person, the process of personhood, where there should have been a person, there's nobody, and there is nothing. It's totally empty.
It's like empty inside.
Yes, this emptiness is also in borderline personality disorder. Right. And so someone like Otto Kernberg suggested that borderline and narcissism are the same phenomenon, basically. He said that narcissism, pathological narcissism, is a defense against borderline personality organization. But he suggested that both of them belong to the same, they're very identical twins, same family. And in both cases, there is emptiness. Actually, emptiness, internal emptiness, is a diagnostic criterion in the DSM for borderline personality disorder. If you read the DSM in the diagnostic criteria, emptiness. So there is a sense of emptiness, and how do you maintain continuity? Because without it, it's very difficult to. In both narcissism and borderline, there is enormous dissociation. Dissociation means memory gaps, lost time. And in the case of the borderline, there are even other phenomena which are very problematic, like derealization. The borderline sometimes feels that nothing is real. Things are not real. It's a dreamscape. There is depersonalization, where the borderline feels that she is not in the situation. Her body is here, but she is not here. So this happens a lot, for example, in sex, the sex life of the borderline. Very often she dissociates, she detaches. Her body is there, but she is not there. And all these dissociative phenomena are common in narcissism and in borderline because there is no organizing principle. There is no core that takes care of continuity. So what do? They go to other people. They generate a sense of continuity via other people. So the narcissist uses narcissistic supply, and this narcissistic supply, attention, he uses it to feel alive, to feel that he exists somehow. If people keep looking at the narcissist, keep giving him attention, keep giving him input, keep telling him how great he is or whatever, he can then maintain a sense that he exists, and that he exists in continuity, in perpetuity.
Thanks to the others?
Only others.
Okay.
Narcissists and borderlines have external regulation.
This is why a narcissist can even be married, or have a job, or have maybe friends. This is what keeps him in the line.
Narcissists don't have friends, but yeah. Narcissists surround themselves with...
Many of them can have a wife, husband.
Yes.
They are suppliers.
Wife and husband are these are ceremonial roles. There's no emotional correlate in narcissism. There are no emotions. Narcissists could also be very empathic.
Oh, really?
Yes, they have cold empathy. Cold empathy. So they can be cognitively empathic. They can be reflexively empathic, but there is no emotional reaction to the information that they gather through the empathy. So a narcissist would look at you and say, oh, this man is very sad. Okay, he's very sad, but this would not create any emotional resonance in the narcissist.
Yes, because you say that a narcissist have only interaction with their bad emotions.
That's not the reason in this case. It's true, but it's not the reason for this. The lack of empathy is because the narcissist has great difficulty to tell the difference between internal and external. Narcissists cannot perceive other people as external to them. What they do,
they introject them.
Snapshotting. Yes, I call it snapshotting. It's not a clinical term. Introjection is a clinical term. And so they introject, they snapshot these people. They create internal representations of these people. They continue to interact with them. Obviously, if you don't exist, then a narcissist cannot empathize with you because you don't exist. You are a figment in the narcissist's mind, element in his mind. So he owns you, he appropriates you, he controls you, he can play with you, he can manipulate, he can talk to you in his mind, and so on and so forth. Your external existence is deleted completely.
These traits make me think about psychopaths that don't feel things. If I'm right, we say that one of the first signs of the psychopath is that they make suffer dogs, for example, when they are 6 or 7 years old, and it makes them nothing. And these points specifically make me think about it.
Yes, psychopaths also have cold empathy, exactly like narcissists. And the psychopath doesn't have any emotional reaction or resonance, any what we call affective empathy. So he would identify the suffering of the animal or the person, but he would have no emotional reaction.
I see that the dog is dying, but I don't feel it.
And I know it's suffering.
I know it's suffering. I can see it,
but there's no emotional reaction, and consequently there is no actionable emotion. In other words, there will be no action that follows. So if you see a dog is suffering, you will take the dog to the vet, or you'll try to help the dog. The psychopath will freeze, will just look at the dog, because there's no mediation of empathy. There's nothing will create action. So, but the psychopath is in much better mental shape than narcissists.
Oh, really? I would have bet the opposite.
Yes. Psychopaths are in much better shape. Psychopaths, first of all, are grounded in reality, whereas pathological narcissism is a fantasy defense.
And do you think it's a psychosis?
Kernberg believed that narcissism and borderline are pseudo-psychotic state, almost psychotic state. I believe the same. I think narcissists are in almost psychotic state constantly. because they cannot tell the difference between internal objects and external objects.
And reality.
And reality and fantasy.
It's an interpretation of what they feel inside.
They experience. They have only inner experiences. They don't have any access to reality. They have impaired reality testing. So that's the first thing. Psychopaths are grounded in reality. They are goal-oriented. They are very self-efficacious. They obtain the goals that they want. They want sex. They want money. They get it, and so on. And they don't interpret anything as a fantasy. They know exactly what's happening.
While the narcissist is in a fantasy.
The narcissist constantly in a fantasy, constantly in a dream state. Constantly, narcissist is like on a constant high, constantly on LSD. That's the first difference. So external, internal, fantasy, reality. Psychopath is the psychopath is also not in need of people. He doesn't regulate externally. He doesn't need other people to regulate his internal environment. He can maintain a stable sense of self-worth, the psychopath. He can maintain self-confidence and self-esteem at whatever level. Most psychopaths are grandiose, so it's high level, but it's stable. Whereas a narcissist, the sense of self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence always fluctuate.
Yes.
To stabilize them, the narcissist needs narcissistic supply from people,
and
attention.
And as soon they are facing a trigger, then they can go into a rage, narcissistic rage, and
whenever the narcissist has a self-concept, the self-concept is inflated, fantastic, grandiose, detached from reality. We call it cognitive distortion. And this self-perception or self-image or self-concept is godlike. And whenever there is a challenge to the self-concept, or whenever the self-concept is undermined by reality, or whenever the narcissist is unable to secure a narcissistic supply so that the self-concept collapses, at that point the narcissist can either rage, as you say, but there are other possible reactions. We have narcissistic injury, which leads usually to depression and anxiety. We have narcissistic mortification, which in narcissistic mortification, then all the narcissistic defenses collapse, including the false self, and the narcissist becomes borderline. He has emotion dysregulation, suicidal ideation, and so on. In other words, the narcissistic structure is very fragile, very brittle, very vulnerable. The narcissist's story about himself, the narcissist's self-narrative, is so nonsensical, so divorced from reality, so crazy, so grandiose, so fantastic, that it is indefensible. You cannot defend it. If you believe that you are Napoleon, it would be a bit difficult to defend this belief against reality, yes? Anyone will tell you you're not Napoleon. Reality will tell you you're not Napoleon. Television will tell you you're not Napoleon. It's difficult to defend the narcissistic narrative. So the narcissist is always on the defense, always fighting, always hypervigilant, always alert, and very fragile and brittle and vulnerable and easily broken and easily challenged and easily undermined. And so that's why all narcissists transition between overt and covert phases, because of these collapse states where they collapse. The psychopath is not like that. Psychopath is not like that at all. Psychopath is self-assured, self-confident. Psychopath is superficially charming. Psychopath is efficacious, has agency, knows reality, highly goal-oriented, psychopath is not narcissist. He's in much better shape mentally.
Yes, narcissists, they pretend that they are grandiose, but inside them, I think they feel a bit fragile.
No, well, it's true that this is the case, but they don't feel it.
They don't feel it.
It is true that there is a gap between what we call implicit self-esteem and explicit self-esteem. Implicit self-esteem in the narcissist is a sense of shame, inferiority, vulnerability, inadequacy, failure. We call it the internalized bad object. So there is a sense of being less than other people. And then we have the compensation. We have the defense. Pathological narcissism is compensatory. So the narcissist says, I am godlike. I am not helpless. I am all-powerful. I'm not ignorant. I'm all-knowing. I am not stupid. I am genius. I'm not. So the narcissistic narrative, the false self, the narcissistic narrative, this inflated self-concept, is compensation for what you said, for the inner shame and so on. But narcissist is not aware of that. There's no awareness. He doesn't know that if you question a narcissist, and we study narcissists in psychology, we talk to them, there are tests and so on, they would tell you that they experience only the compensatory narrative. They don't experience the inner reality.
Because you said that there's a subclinical problem with narcissists, but I think it's very difficult for a narcissist to go to see a psychotherapist and admit his behavior. And how can you be sure that the narcissist will come and tell the truth to the psychotherapist?
Yeah, well, a few things. First of all, overt narcissists, which is the kind of narcissist we all, when we say narcissist, we have in mind overt narcissists, Donald Trump type. So,
Hi, Donald. It's a joke.
So why?
No, if you watch this show.
There's MAGA here?
No, because every time he says Donald Trump is a narcissist in his videos, he gets insulted in the comments.
So, okay.
It's okay. He didn't say it. I said it, and I did not say it as a joke. So we have this type of narcissist in mind, the
overt,
the arrogant, haughty, exploitative, envious, self-confident, in your face, go-getter. In short, what we have is a caricature of a psychopath, in effect. It's not exactly the overt narcissist. But anyhow, the studies show that overt narcissists are more likely to attend therapy than general population, not less. And this is exactly...
Overt narcissists are more likely?
More likely. This is exactly what we were discussing in the taxi. But I told you there is a difference between anecdotes and beliefs and myths and studies. That's why we need studies, understand? Because when you look at academic studies, many of the things that people believe intuitively to be correct, common sense, if you're a narcissist, you're self-confident, why would you go to therapy? You would not go to therapy, This makes sense. It's common sense. But a lot of common sense is wrong. And a lot of intuition is wrong. And in this case, common sense and intuition are wrong, actually. Overt narcissists are more likely to attend therapy than general population, healthy people. And the reason is that overt narcissists frequently collapse. They go through stages where they cannot obtain supply, they're down, no one wants to associate with them, or they go through divorce, they go through bankruptcy, they go to prison, and so on and so forth, and then they end up seeking help. They don't seek help because they think something is wrong with them. They seek help because they think something is wrong with other people. And they want to learn how to manipulate other people, so the motivation to go to therapy is wrong. But they do go to therapy, and they get diagnosed.
Very interesting.
Covert narcissists are less likely to go to therapy than general population.
But it's difficult to understand because, as you said before, narcissist goes from covert to overt and from overt to covert. They're changing.
When the narcissist transitions from overt to covert, they are more likely to go to therapy as an overt. It's an overt that became covert.
But it's the same person, but not
it's
the
same
different
person.
time of life.
Yeah, but we have dominant types. You have dominant types. So in your lifetime as a narcissist, you spend 80% of the time as overt, then you would be an overt narcissist. Or you would spend 80% of the time as covert.
And do you think it's when they are covert that they might try to do what Carl Gustav Jung said, separation and individuation?
No. Separation and individuation is an entirely different issue, and it leads to both types of narcissism, covert and overt. Problems with separation and individuation result sometimes in pathological narcissism, which is either overt or covert. A covert narcissist is a narcissist who is in a constant state of collapse. It's a narcissist who is unable to secure narcissistic supply because they're shy, or because they are avoidant, they are afraid of people's reactions, or because they're stupid, or because they are socially disadvantaged. So we tend to believe, for example, that many more women are covert narcissists because they are socially disadvantaged in many societies, not everywhere. But so, for whatever reason, the covert narcissist is prevented from obtaining supply, subjectively because they are afraid to try, or objectively because it's difficult for them. I think for a woman narcissist in Afghanistan, it would be a bit of a problem to obtain supply. Yeah? So this kind of narcissist becomes covert. It is in a constant state of collapse. And then the only way for a covert narcissist to somehow survive is self-supply. So the covert narcissist tells himself or herself that, for example, I'm a genius, but people are envious of me. And they don't recognize me because they envy me. That is a narrative that is totally internal, totally delusional, totally fantastic, and it is a form of self-supply because it doesn't involve other people. No? So self-supply is a solution in covert. Another solution is the covert teams up with an overt. So the covert is obtaining supply through the overt. It reminds me that in 19th century Germany, if you were married as a woman, you were married to a doctor, they called you Frau Doktor. Even if you didn't graduate kindergarten, you were Frau Doktor. So this is the inverted narcissist. That's a type of covert that obtains supply by marrying or teaming up with an overt.
So they can be also in couple. Okay, great.
Yes, couple or could be business. Doesn't have to be couple.
Two narcissists, one overt and one covert.
One covert, one overt.
Okay.
The covert is, I call it inverted narcissist, and it could be in business. Doesn't have to be intimate relationship. It's to team up with someone who is successful. You team up with someone who is getting supply, who is successful, who is famous, who is celebrity, and you are with him. Then, like the moon and the sun, by reflection, you're getting supply. You know, because I'm with him. You know.
Because we're asking you this because in France we have this cliché that a narcissist only target an empath and that two narcissists can't be together. No, we have a lot of belief that, narcissists, they won't be looking for another narcissist. That's why we're asking you this question. I have a question for you about, this comes a lot during therapy. People need to know, he must love me. Why did he come back? Why did he left and why did he come back? What is your answer to those victims, to those persons who are looking for, the narcissist must feel love, must love me if he came back? You see me, is it supply? Is it domination? Is it...
To check the power?
Yeah, to check his power, his dominance.
What happens to the victim of narcissistic abuse is the equivalent of a natural disaster. She doesn't feel, I'm saying she, stereotypically, she doesn't feel, but of course could be male victims. She doesn't feel, or the victim doesn't feel responsible, doesn't feel that she had contributed anything to the situation, doesn't feel that she deserved it, and so on. And so as far as the victim is concerned, some force of nature impacted her life, and so on. This makes the victim very small. If you are the victim of a random process that couldn't care less about you, that was indifferent to who you are, and so on, it makes you feel very small, makes you feel helpless, makes you feel meaningless, insignificant, you know. And so you compensate. We have narcissistic defenses in healthy people as well. You compensate. How do you compensate as a victim? You say, I was chosen. He chose me. Whatever happened to me, I was chosen.
So I must be loved.
Why I was chosen? Why was I chosen? Because I'm super empathic. Empath is complete, unmitigated nonsense. There's no such thing. But I'm super empathic. I'm empath. Or I'm amazingly kind and nice person. In short, the victim develops grandiose defenses. She begins to self-aggrandize, just in order to make sense of what happened to her. Why did this happen to me? Because I'm a good person, because I'm special, because I'm unique in some way, and so on. The second thing, the second narcissistic defense is I was special to the narcissist. Not only am I special as a person, not only am I unique as a person in some way, but I was also special to him. So he chose me because of something in him, not only something in me. He needed my love. He needed my kindness. He was envious of me. He wanted to be like me. Something happened there. I was special as on my own, as by myself, but I was also special to him. And then the next stage is to say, the narcissist's behaviors prove to me that he actually did love me. You know, he did love me. Fact, he keeps coming back to me, or whatever. All these are nonsensical narratives. They are counterfactual. They have no ground in reality. They are completely wrong. First of all, narcissists don't choose people. For the simple reason they are unable to notice people. They don't regard people as external entities. They couldn't care less.
Wow.
They couldn't care less if you're empathic, if you're nice, if you're kind, if you're evil, if you're a psychopath, if you are short. Couldn't care less. Some narcissists may choose you because you can help them to idealize themselves. You can help them to attract narcissistic supply. So some narcissists would choose trophy wives, women who are super beautiful and amazing. And yeah, that does happen. But they choose these people, they choose the victim as an object, a way to attract supply, a channel, not because of the victim. Narcissists don't pay attention to your personal qualities and to your personal identity, to your personal history, to your personal anything. You don't exist as a person. You exist as a service provider. Now, what is it that the narcissist wants from you? The narcissist wants from you what I call the 4 S's. 4 S's is sex, supply, narcissistic or sadistic, services, and stability or
security,
presence, safety. If you are able to provide 2 of these 4, you're in. And the narcissist initially auditions you. Narcissist is a process of auditioning. He auditions you. He wants to see if you can provide these 4. For example, can you be a good participant in the shared fantasy? Will you criticize him, disagree with him, challenge him? Then you're out. Never mind how empathic you are. Never mind how gorgeous you are. Never mind how intelligent you are. Never mind even how rich you are. You're out. You're out. If you don't provide 2 of the 4, you are out. So you're a service provider. Are you emotionally attached to your internet service providers? I hope not. If you are, you need help. So it's the same. Are you emotionally attached to your refrigerator? Well, again, I hope not. It's the same. It's an object that provides these S's, these 4 S's. It doesn't have to be all 4, as I said. 2 out of 4 is enough. Consequently, anyone who can provide 2 out of 4 is equal to anyone else who can provide 2 out of 4. This is equipotence. Anyone is equal to anyone if they can provide these 2 out of 4, exactly the same way that you can switch from one internet provider to the other, because they can provide the same. Broadband, internet access, that's it. The victim, people in the narcissist's life, not only victims, not all of them are victims, they're interchangeable, they're fungible, they're commoditized, they're commodities. They don't have personal identity. They don't have anything that renders them special or unique or whatever. If the narcissist comes back to you, the narcissist comes back to you for his own reasons. He comes back to you because he needs to finalize the shared fantasy. We can discuss it a bit later if you want. These are internal processes that are inexorable. They are stronger than the narcissist. Narcissist is a slave of the shared fantasy, exactly like the victim. And they push the narcissist to hoover you, to harvest you, to take you back. And all these stages, you don't exist really. You don't exist. You definitely don't exist as a special thing. You definitely have not been chosen. And you are easily replaceable. and replaced in the majority of cases. Narcissist abandons you, or you abandon the narcissist. The next day he has someone else.
You are speaking about tests like for a job interview to get
It's a
the
job
job.
interview. It is a job. Yeah.
Do you have a classic example of a shared fantasy, the job test at the beginning of a relationship?
So the narcissist is always in a state of shared fantasy. The only way the narcissist can interact with other people doesn't have to be intimate partners.
Could you explain what is a shared fantasy to the...
Yes, a shared fantasy is a story, a narrative, a movie script, within which the narcissist is grandiose, so within which the narcissist is a genius or is amazing in some way, unique in some way, will become super rich and super powerful. So it's a narrative that organizes the narcissist's relationship, interpersonal relationships, in a way that maximizes and guarantees an uninterrupted flow of narcissistic supply necessary to maintain the grandiose self-concept. So shared fantasy is a way, if you want to look at it differently, is a way to extract narcissistic supply on a regular basis from highly specific sources so as to buttress or support or uphold a grandiose, inflated, fantastic self-image known as self-concept. That's the shared fantasy. Now, consequently, there are many types of shared fantasy. If a narcissist would have one shared fantasy with his wife, another shared fantasy with his children, another shared fantasy with a good friend, another shared fantasy at the workplace. So a typical narcissist has dozens, sometimes hundreds of shared fantasies. Yes.
Do you have example? Imagine you go on Tinder and then you meet someone. What will be the test about shared fantasy at the first date?
So the narcissist first...
I saved the whale, or is it something enormous?
So no. So the narcissist auditions, everyone, all the time, auditions, and part of the auditioning is the testing. So for example, do you challenge the narcissist? Do you disagree with the narcissist? On a first date, you're going to date. Let's assume that the idea is to have a shared fantasy with an intimate partner. So that's easier to... So you go on a date, and you don't know, but the other person is a narcissist. So he's going to say something. He's going to express a political opinion, or a scientific opinion, or whatever. And he's going to wait. If you challenge him, or disagree, or criticize,
you're out.
or offer another opinion, or alternative, you're out. You failed the test.
Yes. You cannot say no to a narcissist. As soon as you say no, you're punished.
You're finished as a source of narcissistic supply or participant in the shared fantasy. You're finished in this sense. Narcissists may continue to be in touch with you. You can offer other things. You can offer money. You can offer access. You can offer, so. But as a source of supply or participant in the shared fantasy, you are done. You're finished. And that's one example of one of the tests. Another test would be a maternity test, maternal test. A narcissist will, on a first date, will try to see whether you can be a good mother. And that doesn't matter if you're female or male. Doesn't matter if you're intimate partner or good friend. Doesn't matter if you're a boss or co-worker. Everyone should be the narcissist's mother. A narcissist converts everyone into maternal figures.
It's a dual mothership fantasy.
Yes, the dual mothership fantasy comes a bit later when the narcissist... But first of all, he needs to make sure that you can be a good mother. So, for example, the narcissist would on a first date, try to see whether you can accept him as he is unconditionally, and he will, for example, expose something unpleasant about himself. Minor thing, not big confession, but something minor. And he would monitor your reaction. If you are critical, if you are rejecting, or if you are not enthusiastic about it, or if you are not all embracing and forgiving, then you're gone, you're dead. It's the test. You failed the test. So the narcissist subjects you to a series of tests in the auditioning phase. And if you succeeded in these tests, the narcissist moves on to the next phase in the shared fantasy, colloquially known as love bombing. And again, in love bombing, it's about the narcissist. Nothing is about the victim. Nothing is about the victim. The narcissist love bombs not because of the victim. It's not even to acquire the victim, because the victim is already acquired. She just doesn't know it. She is in the fantasy. She just doesn't know it. But it's not about the victim at all. The love bombing has two functions. The first function is co-idealization. When the narcissist idealizes the other party, by implication, he idealizes himself. Because if my wife is the most beautiful woman, the most intelligent woman, the most amazing woman, what does it make me? She is my wife, you know?
Of course.
It's like owning a flashy car, you know? I have a Lamborghini. What does it say about me? So when the narcissist idealizes the other party, he is actually idealizing himself, because in the narcissist's mind, the other party is in here, not out there.
Introjected.
The narcissist is idealizing the introject, is idealizing the snapshot, not the other person.
You Photoshop the snapshot.
Yes, he photoshops it. So it's
I love it.
in this sense, the love bombing is a way to idealize himself by idealizing the other. Even more, love bombing is about convincing himself. It's not about the victim. The narcissist repeats, "You're amazing, you're incredible, you're drop-dead gorgeous, you're super intelligent. I've never had someone like you. And what is he doing? He's trying to convince himself. He's actually trying to convince himself. Of course, to the other party, this is very addictive. It's intoxicating to see yourself suddenly as this gorgeous, amazing, incredible, super intelligent, unique, unprecedented person is addictive. And so people fall for it, and they want more. They want to see themselves through the narcissist's gaze. But it's a common mistake of the victim, coming back to you. It's a common mistake of a victim to believe that she has anything to do with any of these processes and any of the dynamics of the narcissist. The victim injects herself into the narrative and into the story because it's very difficult for her to accept that she has been absent completely. It's very difficult. It's a narcissistic defense. It's, in a way, this is one of the vectors of contagion. I'm saying that narcissism is contagious. If you're exposed to the narcissist, you are gradually becoming more and more narcissistic. And this is what's happening to the victims. In an attempt to render themselves significant, to make sense of what happened to them, they are becoming narcissists, in effect. And if you go to forums online of self-styled empaths and I don't know, all this nonsense, you will see that these people are grandiose and they're highly narcissistic. They are aggressive. They are, they resemble very much narcissists.
You said him, her. In some studies, they say there is a number equal of women and male narcissism. And in other studies, it says it's mainly men. What's the truth?
Half of all narcissists are women. That is accepted now. And in the text revision of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition, published in 2022, you will find that they say that 50% of all narcissists are men. So that means 50% are women.
You said that narcissism is an adaptation after some mistreatment from the parents. And do you agree with this?
Again, there is this confusion online. People say narcissism, no, it's genetic, it's hereditary. I explained to you that there is a trait that is universal to all human beings, and it's a trait of narcissism. But exactly like the healthy cell in the body, if the healthy cell is exposed to radiation or toxins, it can become cancerous. Same with the trait of narcissism. If the trait of narcissism, which is genetic, is hereditary, is exposed to the wrong kind of environment, it can become cancerous. And that's why my book is titled Malignant Self Love. It's a cancer. It's a cancer of the soul. It's stage 4 cancer. Narcissism is stage 4 cancer. Auteur and others, I think the same. We think that narcissism, pathological narcissism, is as bad as schizophrenia. And Kernberg even said that it is a form of psychosis. So it's bad. It's a really bad disease or mental illness. And what is this environment? What is this toxin? What is this radiation that convert the healthy cell? It's a dysfunctional family environment. Now, when we say abuse, again, there is common misunderstanding online. As you say abuse, people think physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse. These are the classical forms of abuse. but they are in the minority. Very few people sexually abuse their children. Very few. This is the minority of cases. Abuse is any situation. Parental abuse is any situation where the parent, usually the mother, but any parent, when the parent refuses to allow the child to separate from her and become an individual, refuses to allow the child to develop boundaries, and feels threatened when the child develops a self. That is abuse. So now, that's a much wider definition. For example, a mother that is overprotective would not allow the child to go to the street, would not allow the child to play with peers, would not, because she's afraid, she's scared, she's highly insecure. This mother is abusive because she is preventing the child from interacting with reality and with peers, and these are the main engines of personal development and growth. It is through interaction with reality and peers, through suffering, through losses, through pain, through mistakes and failures, that we grow. If the mother doesn't allow the child to experience all these, she's abusive. She's not allowing him to grow. Let's take another kind of mother. A mother who is neglectful, abandons the child, absent, emotionally absent. André Gring, which was a French psychoanalyst, called it a dead mother. This kind of mother who is dead, metaphorically, she is also abusive. Why is she abusive? Because she's not allowing the child to separate from her. But wait a minute, you say, she's abandoning, she's neglecting, she's allowing the child to separate. No. Because the mother is abandoning and neglecting, the child is in panic. The child always tries to get mother back. As the child is trying to get mother back, the child cannot separate. The child will be terrified to separate from the mother because he will be afraid to lose her completely. So this kind of mother is also abusive. Let's take another kind of mother. A mother who is in a bad relationship with her husband, let's say, and she converts her son into a husband. She uses the son as a husband. There is emotional incest. There is a lot of confidence. She makes confidences with the son. She conspires with the son against the father, and so on and so forth. This is known as parentification. A mother or a father who uses the child as their own parents. The child is responsible for the parents' happiness, well-being. The child is responsible to feed the parents, to take care of the parents. This is parentification. It's abuse, of course.
And that's what happens in the relationship when they are trying to do the reenactment.
Yeah. Allow me to finish the inventory of abuse, because this is a seriously problematic area online. When people don't understand what is abuse, and they say, it's not true. My narcissist, he had a wonderful mother. He had a great family. It's not true that there is abuse and trauma. But what people understand as a great family is actually highly abusive.
That's incredible.
Let's have another example. Imagine parents who push the child to realize their own unfulfilled dreams and wishes and fantasies. The mother wanted to be an actress. She's pushing her daughter to become a model and an actress. The father wanted to be a pianist, failed, did not succeed, pushes his son to be a pianist. It's a famous case in Australia. The son ended in mental asylum. There's a movie, Shine. It's called Shine. It's a great movie about this. So when the parents push the children to realize their own unfulfilled fantasies and dreams and wishes, that's abuse. In all these situations, as you see, the child, this kind of abuse is called instrumentalization. In all these situations, you can see the child cannot separate. You have emotionally blackmailing parents. They say to the child, you owe us. We sacrificed ourselves for you. Or, I cannot live without you. If you leave me alone, I will die. You know? Or, I cannot do this. You need to change my bulb, you need to fix my television, and they all the time. So, all these parents refuse to let the child go. What is the main role, main function of a good enough mother? In a minute, I will explain why mother and not father. Because also online you have debates about this. Yeah. Why mother? Father?
It's a figure.
Unfortunately, it's mother. These are all forms of abuse. Because the child is not allowed to separate and individuate, and not allowed to become a person. In all these situations, we have a chance of 2% of pathological narcissism. The child may react with pathological narcissism. What is pathological narcissism? It's a fantasy defense. The child finds reality unacceptable. The child grieves because the child wants to become and is not allowed to become. So there's grieving, there's lifelong grieving for what you could have been and you will never be.
Mm-hmm. So you are going to say, what is a good mother? Yes,
I'll come to it in a minute. So in all these situations, there is a 2% chance that you will end up having a narcissist as a child. A good enough mother is a term coined by a phrase coined by Winnicott. Winnicott was pediatrician, later became psychologist. So a good enough mother has essentially one role, and one role only. Is it to feed the child? No. Is it to love the child? No. That's not her role. Her role is to push the child away. This is the role of a good mother. Her main role is to push the child away, to legitimize, to give the child a good feeling about walking away. So a good enough mother would not be narcissistic, would not be self-centered, would not be insecure, would not be depressive, would not be abandoning, would not be neglecting, would not be instrumentalizing, not parentifying, not pedestalizing, not idolizing, none of this. These are all bad mothers. A good mother is a mother who tells the child, don't worry about me. Go. Go. Explore the world. Play with your peers.
And you said it's between 6 months and 3 years.
So separation individuation starts at 18 months and ends at 36 months. It has multiple stages. It was first described by Mahler, who was a psychologist. It has multiple stages. They're not easy to manage. And parenting is fine-tuning function, fine-tuning behavior. And many parents get it wrong. Maybe even the majority, I don't know.
In a society where we divorce, 1 out of 2 divorce today, we can easily imagine that 2 parents were mandatory to raise the kids. Today it's not the case. How come that, despite the fact that divorce increase, the percentage of narcissism stay the same since 50 years?
Because fathers are not very necessary.
They're not very?
Fathers are not very necessary.
Ah, okay.
Really? Okay.
The father fulfills an important role, usually after age 36 months. And the father's role is to teach. The father teaches skills, to play baseball, I don't know. The father teaches what we call scripts. Scripts means specific behaviors in specific situations in society. So a very famous script is the sexual script. So the father teaches by example or directly teaches about sexuality, flirting, courtship, and so on. Usually it's by example. The child observes the relationship between the parents and adopts a script. This is called modeling. This process is called modeling. The father is also a socialization agent. The father teaches the child what is right, what is wrong, and so the father is instrumental in developing what Freud called superego, conscience, whatever. These are all social roles. I could say the following. The mother is responsible for developing the self, the ego, the personhood, who you are, core identity. The mother makes you. After the mother made you, she hands you over to the father, and the father teaches you. So that's why all the major authorities, including Bowlby and you name it, all the major authorities, like Freud, of course, and to a lesser extent, Sam Vaknin, we all agree that it is the mother that is crucial.
I always thought that the mother was taking care at home, and the aim of the father was to cut cordon, to cut the rope and to push the baby outside.
No, it's
For
a
ex-
mother.
It's
The
a
mother is
and it's the mother.
It's a mother is doing this. If you go to the park, you see mothers with children. So the child walks away a few steps and then runs back to mommy and hugs her.
So for the debate, and don't criticize me in the comments, when a couple divorce and we split half 1 week for the father, 1 week for the mother, it could be a bad thing. We should
Depends on
give
the age.
more on the
Depends on
time
the
to
age.
the mother.
Depends on the age. Why did I say that fathers are much less necessary than mothers? Because you could learn skills and scripts from multiple sources. You can learn it from teachers. You can learn it from role models on television. You can learn it from peers. Actually, today we know that peers teach the child much more than any father and mother combined.
Wow.
Peers are the major shaping influence. So you can learn things. You can learn things from multiple sources. You don't need the father, basically. Whereas your formation as a human being is crucially dependent on the mother. And if the mother is the wrong sort, you're gonna pay a price, lifelong price. You know?
Yes, in a way, you have to break the biosis between the body of the child who was inside the body of the mother.
This is a very interesting topic you raised. Mahler called it the symbiotic phase. Mahler and others suggested that children and mothers are one organism, psychologically speaking, initially physically speaking, but let's say psychologically speaking, after the birth. They're one organism, and that later the child breaks away from the mother. The child realizes that the mother is separate and external and breaks away. Think about it in terms of trauma. There is a major trauma when you're born. It's mostly a physical trauma. You do have mind when you're born. It's very basic, very primitive, rudimentary. You are able to perceive sounds, especially the sound of your mother's voice, which you recognize instantly in the first minute that you're born. You're able to recognize mother's face, but no other face, by the way, the first 6 weeks. Mother's face, no other face. Which shows you the importance of the mother. You know, today is politically correct age. You're not supposed to say such things because it's sexist. You're not supposed to say mother is more important than father. You'll be fired from the university. But this happens to be the truth. So when you're born, you have such a basic mind that the trauma is mostly physical. However, a bit later, you have a trauma which I personally considered as the worst trauma ever in your life. When you realize that mother is not you, and you realize that mother is out there, she's separate, she's external. That is shocking, because until that moment, the child, mother, and the world were one. It was a unitary universe, where the child, Freud called it the oceanic feeling. So you're like in an ocean, it's like oceanic feeling. And then suddenly, it breaks, the world breaks. There is a chasm, there's a breaking of the world. And then a duality. I, world, internal, external. Suddenly, everything breaks apart. And at that moment, you feel existentially alone. Existentially alone. But loneliness, solipsistic loneliness, the likes of which you will never experience again. And it's terrifying. Because if you and mother are not one, you cannot control mother. You realize suddenly that there is no control over mother. She can frustrate you, and she does. You want food, she's away. You know. And so suddenly everything falls apart, and it's a gigantic trauma. Here is the key: how do you come to learn that you are separate? How do you know that you're not one with mother? Because you see yourself in mother's eyes. You see yourself through mother's gaze. And at that moment, if you see yourself through her gaze, you realize she can't be me. She cannot be me. If I'm seeing me there, it's not, there is me. Suddenly there is a sense of me. There is no sense of me until 6 months. We know it from rigorous experiments and so on. There's no sense of me. Suddenly there's a sense of me. At that moment, is the beginning of the self. At that moment, a boundary is formed, externality, internality, separateness, and so on. Everything is formed, and now starts a process that leads to individuation. You become individual. This is where there is a disruption with narcissism. This process in narcissism is broken.
It's the start of the construction of the self.
Yes, it's broken completely.
I have a question for you about, you often say that victims of narcissists unknowingly participate in a psychological dance. What draws an empathic person toward the narcissist? And can empathy itself become an addiction to drama? You have some people who say they go with a narcissist, then they meet a second person, it's a narcissist, and they start to be addicted to something that makes them feel butterflies or vibrate and stuff. And then when they get into a healthy relationship, it sounds flat.
Boring.
While the narcissist is non-discriminating, as I explained, narcissists couldn't care less who you are, as long as you provide whatever. No, it's non-discriminating. The victim is discriminating. Narcissists are not, victims are. To be attracted to the narcissist, you definitely need to have a highly specific personality structure. Why am I saying this? Again, if you go online, self-styled experts would tell you that narcissists are irresistible, they're great actors, they are charming, they are this, that. None of it is true, unfortunately. Studies show that we have a very negative reactions to narcissists within the first 30 seconds. Multiple studies. Multiple studies, not one study, many studies. Most famous of which in Harvard, studies in Harvard that actually came up with a different answer. The studies in Harvard said that we have this reaction in 3 seconds, not 30. But the majority, the consensus of these studies, many studies. Had it been one study, you know, I'm skeptical. Okay, one study, but many studies. And so what happens is within 30 seconds, we develop extreme acute discomfort, even when the exposure to the narcissist is through a video. Even when the exposure is through an email, by reading an email.
I think you said even on Tinder.
Any exposure. Any exposure to narcissism, even email message, creates this. I call it the uncanny valley reaction.
Yes, uncanny valley.
Okay, so it is not true that there is this inexorable, irresistible attraction, you cannot help yourself, magnets, I don't know what, and you fall prey to the narcissist. You choose the narcissist. It's a choice. You have to overcome this uncanny valley reaction. You have it, but you have to overcome it. You have to deny it. You have to lie to yourself. You have to reframe the situation. You have to see the good side of the narcissist. You have to say, I should give him a second chance. You have to say, it's not okay to judge someone in 30 seconds. You know, there is a cognitive process going on, active, to falsify the situation, for you to stay with the narcissist. Because normal, healthy person has a reaction of getting away immediately. Even in Facebook, and I remember there's a study on Facebook posts.
You said a normal person should
Gets away.
Get away.
Gets away.
And so the victim
we made a series of studies where we asked people, do you think it's a narcissist or not? And we showed them posts from Facebook. Do you think it's a narcissist or not? And we exposed them to 30 seconds of posts. So they saw 2, 3 posts. I don't know. How many posts you can see in 30 seconds? Then we asked them to identify who is a narcissist, who is not. They were 85% accurate.
Wow.
They identified people who were diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder 85% of the time accurately. And it created in them extreme discomfort. The victim has to overcome this. The victim has to lie to herself.
How is it possible?
Yes,
it's a fact. Mirroring process, maybe. The mirroring process.
Well, we're not quite sure what's happening there, but there are other studies that show that we judge people accurately within 3 seconds. There are other studies, Harvard studies that I mentioned before, and they show that on average, 3 seconds are enough for us to evaluate people more or less appropriately.
Wow.
Intuition is wrong 50% of the time when it comes to facts and predictions. We are wrong 50% of the time. But it's almost 90% accurate when it comes to other people.
So it means if someone is always having love relationships with narcissists, it means this person is actively looking for a narcissist.
It's a choice.
Like this woman falling in love with people in jail, men in jail.
It's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's an absolute choice because she has to overcome.
Making the choice to go with someone that will hurt me.
Because she has to deny and overcome and suppress the uncanny valley reaction.
Incredible.
So why?
What makes this? Okay.
Yes, why? So I said it's a special personality structure, but I had to explain why I think so. So that's one of the reasons. And we have studies, for example, that show that borderlines are much more likely to have relationships with narcissists than the average population. So we have some studies about some types of... I think, first of all, it should be someone who intensely dislikes reality. Someone who is disappointed in reality, who had bad outcomes in reality, is not self-efficacious, no agency, has no power over her life, she feels helpless, hopeless. Someone who has just experienced something bad, she's vulnerable or he is vulnerable because of recent event like death or divorce or whatever, but someone who is disillusioned and disenchanted with reality.
Maybe also an artist or a haut potentiel.
Could be, yes. Someone who escapes reality as a method, as a system. So this kind of person would be attracted to the masters of fantasy. The masters of fantasy are narcissists. There is no group of people on earth who are better at fantasy than narcissists. That's why most modern technology was invented by narcissists, because most modern technology, social media, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, metaverse, all these technologies have one thing in common. Escape from reality. The current technologies are about escape from reality. That includes movies, of course, and so on. And in all these industries, there is very little debate that there is overrepresentation of narcissists. So they're experts at fantasy. If you hate reality and you come across a narcissist, the narcissist has something to offer you. He can offer you augmented reality, alternative reality, virtual reality. And it's irresistible. The second thing is you need to be somehow exposed to narcissists previously. Maybe your parents were narcissists. Maybe your siblings were narcissists. Maybe you grew up in a highly narcissistic culture or society or civilization. Somehow you need to have previous exposure to narcissists. You need to have what we call pre-morbidity. Pre-morbidity. You need to be conditioned to react to narcissists, sensitized to narcissists. And that prepares the ground. So it's not wonder that people who grew up in abusive families tend to end up with narcissists. The third thing is, I think it's very difficult for all of us to accept that narcissists are the victims, much more victims than the victims. Narcissists are victimized children. They're victims. So we have two types of victims attracted to each other. It's not narcissist and victim. It's one type of victim with one type of solution and another type of victim. Victims attracted to victims because they share the same language, same background, same history, same sensitivity, same, they're the same.
And often in the relationship, so we feel like the other, the narcissist, wants us to experience their own traumas.
Yes.
And that's why...
Keep this in mind and ask me a bit later, because what narcissists do, they impose everything on the victim. It's a good question, but in a minute. So often the victim will tell you, I never felt more understood in my life.
That's true.
Never. Or I was so accepted fully. Why? Because it's the same family. Narcissist and victim are the same people. Only the narcissist chose a different solution. What the narcissist chose is known in psychology as identifying with the aggressor. There was a psychoanalyst, his name was Ferenczi, and Ferenczi coined this phrase. And he suggested that some victims of abuse, their solution is to become abusers. And say, from now on, I will never be a victim. I will be the abuser now. So this is the narcissistic solution. But it's a victim. The next thing is the narcissist baits or lures the victim, baits her. How? In a variety of ways. But let's take one way. The narcissist is a child, mentally and so on. Narcissists are about 2 years old. Intellectually, they are developed. They have what we call semantic memory. That means they can learn how to do things. They can learn how to, they can be professors of psychology. But they're children. Emotionally and psychologically, they're children. So when they meet what we call a victim, they expose the victim to the child. They expose. And then the victim reacts with maternal instinct. She becomes protective. Mm-hmm. She wants to nurture. She wants to love. So this is a bait. Narcissists have a very sophisticated system of baits. Another bait, the hall of mirrors. The other bait is like, you will see yourself idealized through my gaze, and you become addicted to it, and so on. Another bait is, I will be your mother. I will love you unconditionally. I will accept you as you are, and so on. So there are baits and lures that the narcissist uses to attract the victim. And ultimately, if you have the correct personality structure and personal background, you would find the narcissist irresistible. And if you don't, you will run away after 30 seconds. It's as simple as that. It's a binary situation. It's a dichotomy. You don't have people who they come across a narcissist or they meet the narcissist like for 6 years and then they fall in love and they have a shared fantasy. There's no such thing. Or you fall for the narcissist in like 2 weeks, or you don't fall for the narcissist. It's black and white, yes or no. And the reason is this, the personality structure.
Before we will speak a little bit about your method and your book. Before this, what do you think about other experts on YouTube, for example, that are self-proclaimed narcissists? And there is a legend that says that most of them are borderlines and not narcissists. Is it true? Have you seen them? What do you think about them?
Expert is only someone who possesses an academic degree and is...
I'm speaking about the one saying that they are narcissists.
Self-aware narcissists.
Self-aware narcissist is one thing. Expert is another.
Okay.
Self-styled experts.
Self-styled experts is another. I'm very sensitive to this because there's a lot of contamination in the field. I have no problem with self-aware narcissists. I was the first, obviously. I came out, if you wish, in 1995. And I was the first person, I think, in human history, actually, who has admitted to being a narcissist. So I have no problem with this kind of confessional creed or attitude. Where I have a problem is that when people say, because I'm a narcissist, I'm an expert on narcissism, that is not something that is not legitimate, because to be an expert on narcissism, you need to study narcissism in an establishment of higher education. You need to be exposed to experiments and studies. You need to work in the field and so on and so forth. These people obviously don't have this. And even less legitimate is to say, I am a reformed narcissist. I'm a recovering narcissist. I'm a healed narcissist. And so on. This is con artistry. These people are swindlers and scammers. There is no such thing as recovered, reformed, or healed narcissist, period.
You can't heal from narcissism.
Sorry?
You can't heal from narcissism.
I don't even understand the term. I don't know what does it mean to heal from narcissism. The narcissist is his narcissism. How can you heal from being Antoine? Tell me. Can you heal from being Antoine?
It's not a disease.
Because we had a question about therapies and about your cold therapy.
Yeah, we can discuss this,
Yes.
but you cannot. Narcissism is not the flu.
It's a trait.
Narcissism is not extraneous to the narcissist. It's not an acquired disease somehow. Narcissism is the narcissist, and exactly as borderline is the borderline. Now again, we live in a politically correct age. And we are not supposed to say that people are their disease. You're not supposed to say that. There is a person who happens to have narcissism. And there is a person who happens to have borderline. as if the narcissism and borderline are incidental. They are like paint, makeup, veneer. It's not true. In severe mental health issues, in severe mental illnesses, the illness is the person. You cannot divorce the two. A schizophrenic is a schizophrenic.
Maybe you can restrain yourself a little bit.
You can modify behaviors,
modify
obviously.
a little bit, adapt a little bit.
Yes, you can adapt, you can modify behaviors. That much is true, absolutely. We can teach a narcissist to be less antisocial, less abrasive, less obnoxious, more socially acceptable, and so on and so forth. It requires a lot of work and a lot of repetition, because narcissists relapse exactly like alcoholics. And there are many studies that say that alcoholics are narcissists, in effect. So there's a lot of relapse, and narcissism can easily be described as an addiction, because narcissists are addicted to narcissistic supply. So, and so you cannot, whereas, for example, I mentioned addiction, the alcoholic is not only alcoholic. That means I can't say that the alcoholism is the alcoholic, because alcoholism is a behavior. So I can't say that alcoholism is the alcoholic, but narcissism is the narcissist. It's not only behavior. It's everything. It's traits, behaviors, interpersonal relationships, everything, you name it, any field, anything, everything, family, workplace, everything is influenced.
I understand.
It's not Sam Vaknin, it's the DSM. The DSM says that narcissism is all pervasive. All pervasive. So it's idiotic to say that you can heal narcissism or cure it.
So what therapy are they for? In one of your videos, you said most of the time why therapy failed is because they're treating those narcissists as adults. The narcissist is a child. You had your therapy called therapy. I had a question about that. And you even said that the results were not those that you expected to have. And so what is your view about that, about the future? Will we be able to not heal, but treat or deal with this personality style?
I think we need to distinguish between two facets of narcissism. There is the suffering individual, or there is the individual. These individuals are suffering. They just deny that they're suffering. They don't know they're suffering. Many of them don't know that they're suffering, but they are suffering. We know they're suffering because they're dysfunctional, and they go through many crises, collapse, mortification, injury. It's not a condition I would wish on anyone. It's a mental illness. It's a serious problem. So there is this, and the question, can we help this individual in any way? And there is another aspect, and that is the relational and societal aspect. Can we minimize the damage that these people have on other people?
Exactly.
So therapy, it's legitimate for therapy to cope with both sides. It's legitimate to give therapy in order to minimize societal damages and impact on others. It's totally legitimate. And it's legitimate to give therapy to make the individual more functional, more happy, and so on. When it comes to the individual, the maximum we can do is we can modify behaviors. Cold therapy, first of all, cold therapy, I had huge seminars with clinicians in many places, and the clinicians acted as the patients. The clinicians, we tried cold therapy on the clinicians, so it was never tried on real narcissists in the wild. We called it in the wild. It was never tried in the wild. It was tried on clinician populations in Brazil, in Hungary, in Austria, in Russia, and other places. The clinicians passed some basic tests, and those which had a high level of narcissism, we administered NPI. They were treated they experienced cold therapy. It was not treatment even, they experienced cold therapy. Cold therapy was intended and has only one impact, and that is to eliminate the false self, eliminate the need for narcissistic supply, and eliminate the grandiose defenses which falsify reality, restore reality testing, and allow the narcissist to function without the need for self-aggrandizing, inflated, fantastic narratives. And that's it. Cold therapy doesn't touch anything else. Okay. Not empathy, not interpersonal relationships, not capacity for intimacy, nothing. Only this. It's not a small thing, because the need for narcissistic supply is compelling. It's a compulsion and consumes a lot of resources and pushes the narcissist to do all kinds of things that he shouldn't do. The need for grandiosity, the need for grandiose sustenance for narcissistic supply pushes the narcissist to harm other people. So it's not a small thing. But even cold therapy, which is extreme and dangerous and, last resort, definitely, even cold therapy can touch one element, one clinical feature of narcissism, not much more than that. And we don't have longitudinal studies. We don't know how long the effect. The longest we have is about 8 years, so it looks good, but that's it. Currently accepted treatment modalities, accepted therapies. Cold therapy is not accepted, is experimental, never tried on the wild. In other words, it's not a serious treatment modality right now. Serious treatment modalities such as chemotherapy, transactional analysis, to some extent Gestalt, to some extent DBT, and so on. So these can modify the narcissist's behaviors in the short term and make it easier to live with a narcissist. So these have some societal benefits, but none to the individual. The individual cannot be touched. There's no change, no discernible change in anything in the individual. Now, you have quite a few therapists and psychiatrists who will tell you otherwise, until you check their background and you see that they're making a lot of money from treating narcissists. That makes them, in my eyes, very suspect. So
it's like 20 years ago. I will cure your homosexuality.
Yes.
There was in churches and all these things. Give me a lot of money,
one of the most
and your son will not be homosexual after that. Yeah. I think it's the same thing.
Yes, one of the most amazing things in the literature is that the articles that claim that there is treatment for narcissistic personality disorders are written and evaluated by the very clinicians who administer the treatment, which is unheard of in any other field. Unheard of. What should have happened is that the clinicians should have submitted data sets, and professors like me should have evaluated the data sets. But that's not happening. Recently, there was a major article that proved that eight, that's a big study, eight narcissists improved over 6 years, if I remember correctly. With a combination of treatment modalities, they improved over 6 years, and they lost the diagnosis. Everyone, there was a firestorm in the media, everyone, wow, cure for narcissism found, and so on and so forth. Well, 8 people, but the problem was the article was written by the very psychologists and therapists who treated these people, and then evaluated by these very people. There was no outsider in the whole process, in the whole article. There was not a single outsider. So, of course, what do you want to tell you? You want them to tell you we worked for 6 years and we had zero impact, zero results. Yeah. They're human, after all. Even if they're not intentionally deceptive, they're human.
So we won't change the narcissist. What about the victims? What is the easiest, the shortest, the fastest way to heal from a narcissistic abuse?
In the majority of cases, the victims came into the situation, came into the shared fantasy already damaged and broken, already with many problems. Even if these problems were not overt, were not overpowering, were not overwhelming, and still there is some problematic background involved. And the greatest lesson that victims can take out of a narcissistically abusive relationship is that something is wrong with them. And they need to work on themselves. The victims contribute to the situation. They make choices, they make decisions every single day. Not to walk away is a decision to stay. And to deny this, to deny responsibility, to demonize and mythologize the narcissist so as to remove any guilt and blame and shame from yourself as a victim, that's not very helpful to any process of healing. And it means you will end up in the same situation again. The problem with the narcissistic abuse is that it's not superficial. It's not that someone beat you up. Someone beat you up, hospital, this, that, police. It is much more insidious, much more. It's a takeover of your mind. Your mind has been hijacked and then re-engineered, reprogrammed in a variety of ways, entrainment, introjection, and so on. And then you were infantilized, you were regressed, so all your adult faculties and agency were taken away. Damage is enormous. The damage is enormous because you were converted into an internal object, and through something known as projective identification, the narcissist forced you to lose your externality and separateness. He forced you to become an internal object in a way, so you lose your core identity. You lose everything. You lose your mind, core identity, agency, adulthood, and so on. And you need to start from zero. In the wake of the relationship, you need to start from zero. You're 2 years old now, and you need to separate. You need from the narcissist, who was your mother. You need to separate. You need to individuate. You need to eradicate, eliminate the introject, the narcissist voice in your mind. You need to get rid of the entrainment with CBT, with cognitive behavior therapy. You need then to learn to walk, to become independent again, to develop agency, trust in yourself, self-efficacy. You then need to begin to trust the people and world again. Damage in narcissistic abuse is so massive and all-pervasive that I had to coin a new phrase, because otherwise we could have said abuse. Why to say narcissistic abuse? It's not the same as any other type of abuse. You were not targeted because of something you had or something you did. You were targeted because you were. You existed.
Most of the YouTube channels and videos speaks about the step one, which is this is his fault, the narcissist. His fault. He did this, he did that. And by the way, it's nearly the same sentences they all say, the same techniques. It's quite perturbing. I remember my first YouTube videos that I saw about it was exactly what I was living at home. The same phrases, sentences, habits. But YouTube is a place to accuse the others. He's a narcissist, he did this to me. And I have the feeling that to go further, to heal, you need to see a therapist and to start thinking, it's not him, what it reflects about me.
If you don't assume responsibility for what has happened to you,
you don't heal.
Then you will never regain your sense of independence, personal autonomy, agency, power. You will always remain disempowered. If the narcissist did all these things to you, and you had nothing to do with it, then you are completely powerless, and you will remain powerless as long as this is your version of reality. You need to regain your power. The power is the first thing that you need to regain. It's like electricity. Without electricity, we don't have cameras, we don't have smartphones, we don't have anything. Nothing. You can go home without electricity. You need to regain the electricity. You need to regain the power, and the only way to regain power is to say, this was a collaboration between me as a victim, definitely, I've been victimized. This was a collaboration between me and my abuser. We collaborated, we did this together. It's a joint venture. Now I need to see what has been my part and my contribution. I need to learn not to repeat it. And now I need to recover. And now I have enough power to recover, because now I have my agency, I'm in control again. You need to regain locus of control. If you say the narcissist did this to me, it's an external locus of control. You need to regain, and then you say, okay, now I can work on myself. What do I need to do? First of all, his voice is inside my mind, keeps telling me that keeps putting me down, keeps denigrating me, criticizing me, attacking me. It's like a harsh inner critic. So I need to get rid of this voice. Target number one. Target number two, I was infantilized by the narcissist. He made me an infant. He made me dependent. He made me clinging. He made me needy. He with intermittent reinforcement, he created trauma bonding. I need to get rid of all this. I need to get rid of things. But how can you get rid of things if you're powerless? And how can you get rid of things if all the power is with the narcissist? So only he can take away his voice. Only he can, you give him all the power. And so power goes with responsibility. Power goes with blame.
Spider-Man.
Some of the victims need to know this answer. Did the narcissist knew what he was doing? Was it intentionally? And if that's the case, like, it would help them to know, okay, if he did that intentionally, then there's no reason for me to keep hoping he knew what he was doing. But some experts say that they are aware. Some experts say that they're not aware and they don't care. So what's the difference between that and them suddenly collapse and becoming self-aware narcissists? And how do they view that? Especially that when in one of your videos you found out that narcissists don't have access to their memories. They have memory gaps, sometimes 80%, you said. And that's why they use confabulation and not gaslighting more. And what do you think about that? Do they know? What can you say to the victims about that?
Narcissists know everything they're doing, and they absolutely know what will be the consequences and outcomes of what they're doing and the impact on other people. They know all this. They just don't know why they're doing it. So there's a big difference between motivation and action. You could know that you're doing something without understanding why you're doing it. And of course, we have this in compulsions, for example. You do something compulsively, but you don't know why you're doing it.
Repetition, compulsion, by fraud.
Yeah, even simple compulsion. You wash hands all the time. You wash your hands all the time. You know you're washing your hands. You're not. You know you're washing your hands, but you don't know why you're washing your hands. So it's the same with the narcissist. It's a compulsion. The narcissist is a slave to an algorithm inside himself, and this algorithm forces him to repeat the same behavior over and over again. That's a repetition compulsion. And he doesn't know why he's doing it. But as he is acting, he's fully aware of what he's doing. And he knows also for previous experience what would be the effects on other people, the price that other people will pay. Yes, narcissists don't care. They do not care. They do not, exactly like psychopaths. They have no remorse and no regret. Although unlike psychopaths, they're capable of a feeling of shame and rarely of guilt, strangely. But they have no regret and no remorse. They have alloplastic defenses, so they blame everything on other people, or the situation, or the environment, or the circumstances, or the period, or you name it. It's never their fault. It's always someone else's fault. They reframe and justify their behavior. They could say, yeah, I'm very tough and cruel, but it is for your own good. I'm helping you. Tough love. I'm educating you. I'm waking you up. I'm waking you up. So there's no way to reason with a narcissist, to argue with a narcissist, or convince a narcissist and so on, because they have multiple defenses that immediately kick in, reframing, you name it, and justify. And the reason they justify their actions is because they cannot help it. If they did not justify their actions, they would have to admit that they're helpless. Like, if I don't justify what I'm doing, and I'm still doing it, means I cannot help it. But how come I cannot help it? I'm God. I'm godlike. So if I admit that I cannot help it, that I'm helpless, it challenges my grandiosity. So it is their grandiosity that forces them to somehow justify or explain what they're doing, because they cannot help what they're doing, precisely. If they could help what they're doing, they would be psychopaths. Psychopaths absolutely can stop immediately what they're doing. We know it because the behavior of psychopaths changes in prison. We have a similar situation with narcissists in prison, for example, or the army or hospital. These are called total environments. So we have observations of narcissists in prison, and all their narcissistic behaviors stop. So you could say, you see, the narcissist is not compulsive. The narcissist can control their actions. They can change. So they choose not to change. That is not true, because what happens in prison is extreme fear. So we know that in all humans, when you're exposed to an extreme emotion, you freeze. What happens with when you're threatened, there's what we call freeze, fight, flight, fawn response. So what happens to the narcissist when he's in prison is that he freezes. He simply freezes. And it's not that he changes, it's that he freezes. So he doesn't act.
Like Dostoevsky.
Yeah, notes from the underground. And but the psychopath, for example, is stable across environments. Psychopaths continues to be a psychopath, exactly the same psychopath. In prison, outside prison, this, that. And there are various reasons for it, but the most critical reason is that psychopath's behavior is a choice. It's not compulsive. Okay. Well, most of it. Some elements are compulsive, but it's mostly a choice. And the psychopath chooses to be himself because he regards himself as above the law and superior and so on.
We got time for one more question. Do you have do you like a question to be asked to you? Do you have
yes,
la last one?
Do you think?
Juste 3 secondes de silence et après ça on y va.
Do you think that for the diagnosis of a narcissist, we could use medical imagery?
Oh, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, because you have some pictures today on internet, they scan MRI, the brain of narcissists, they see that there's something missing about emotion.
Yeah. There are no studies right now.
Okay.
No serious studies or rigorous studies that connect brain abnormalities to pathological narcissism. One of the main reasons is that, as I told you, there's a lot of confusion on who is a narcissist and who is not, dark personalities, psychopaths, this, that. So the clinical entity is ill-defined. There's a problem with the clinical entity, with what is a narcissist. There's a big problem with it. And even, as I told you, the ICD decided to get rid of it completely. And the second problem is that very often these changes that we see in the brain involve antisocial narcissists, also known as malignant narcissists. These are narcissists that are actually psychopaths. They're psychopaths and narcissists together. And in psychopathy, there are brain abnormalities that have been documented for more than 40, 50 years. And we know that in psychopathy, there are major changes to quite a few parts in the brain. Gray matter, white matter, amygdala, and so on. And these brain scans that are presented online that are attributed to narcissists are actually psychopathic narcissists.
Okay.
At this stage, we don't have any of this. And of course, there is a much more fundamental issue, which demonstrates the problems in psychology and why psychology would never be a science. Okay, you scan the brain. Let's assume we finally settled on a definition of NPD that is acceptable all over the world, because now it's not acceptable. And let's assume we find people who are diagnosed only with NPD, not with BPD, not with only. We don't know how difficult it is. Okay, let's assume. And let's assume we scan their brains. And let's assume we find brain abnormalities in all of them. And say, voila, is a brain abnormality which is associated with narcissism. Maybe white matter, maybe amygdala, I don't know. Okay, here's the problem. How do you know that it is not the narcissism that created the changes in the brain? We don't scan babies when they're born and follow them for 40 years. We don't know which of them will become narcissists. So it's like we would have to take
all the population.
1 million babies, scan them repeatedly for 40 years, 1.7% of them will become narcissists, and then we will know if their brains were abnormal from the beginning, or if it is the narcissism that destroyed the brain gradually. So even if we were to spot brain abnormalities, it would be a meaningless finding, because it could be a lifelong of stress, collapse, mortification, lack of self. It could be a lifelong of these clinical features that destroy the brain, rather than being born with a brain which is problematic. We simply don't have information to. With psychopathy, we have a similar problem. We know that there are brain abnormalities, but we don't know if it's not the psychopathy that caused. But in psychopathy, there's something different, something else. Excuse me for the long answer. In psychopathy, there's something else. There are also differences in the body, not only the brain. So, for example, psychopaths sweat differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They have skin conductance
Wow.
that is different. They have when they're exposed to fear, the brain reactions in the brain, not the structure of the brain, the reactions in the brain. So we know that the whole body of the psychopath is different.
That is the brain.
That leads us to believe that they are born with defective brains. Because if the whole body is compromised, and then probably it's,
Autism is the same. You get strange haircuts when you're autism.
In autism is a great example, because in autism we do have a massive body of brain scans of children, babies, children, and so on. Because most autism, not all, but most autism is diagnosed relatively early. Relatively early, I mean 2 years old, 3 years old, and so on, even earlier. And so we have scans of babies. But narcissism usually is diagnosed after age 25. That's the average diagnosis, about 25, 27. So by that time, it's too late to say if they were born with such a brain or if the brain was, and they don't have any differences in the body. They have totally normal bodies, unlike psychopaths.
Why don't you encourage, you say in one of your videos, it is foolish to try to diagnose a teenager with narcissism, we have to wait 25. What would you say to those parents that they start to notice a strange behavior in their child? What should they do then?
All adolescents are narcissists, I hope. Narcissism is a healthy phase in adolescence. And narcissism is a healthy phase in early childhood. Age 2 or 3, the child should be a narcissist. Consider how narcissistic you should be to leave your mother and go to explore the world when you're 2 years old. Look how grandiose you should be. So it's healthy. Consider how narcissistic you should be at age 15 to criticize society and you reject your parents and to think you know best and to... And yet this is very healthy. Identity formation depends on rejecting the parents. And so you need to be a narcissist at this age. No one is saying that they are not narcissists. But we are saying that it is healthy that they are narcissists. It's good that they are narcissists. Therefore, we don't diagnose at this age. We diagnose depending on the... There's a debate if it's 18, 21, 25. Twenge and Campbell believe that it should be 25. So... But then it's too late to say if there is brain contribution, or it's way too late, because this person probably was a narcissist all his life, and it's too late.
Sam, I've got a very last question for you. How end up a narcissist when he's old or very old? And I ask you this question because...
Regarde-moi.
You are different from the other. Because a lot of the victims hope, because they are victims who they think they are... a lot of the victims hope that the narcissist will end up badly, because it will be a kind of revenge. What's your experience about it?
All narcissists end badly. They end badly externally. So they are bankrupt, they are alone, they are, ignored, so they end badly externally, mostly isolated socially and in bad shape.
Because it's harder to put the cycle again in place? It's...
unless you constantly move, and some narcissists do that, they constantly move physically. They create pathological narcissistic spaces. They move from one space to another. But the majority don't. At some point, your reputation and the experience that people have had with you, it's difficult to find new sources of supply. And if you do find new sources, other people warn them. They warn them against you. It's simply difficult, logistically difficult. So narcissists end badly externally. Even when they end well externally, they are rich, they're famous, they are this, they're that. Internally, they end badly. Narcissism is...
Why?
Because you could call it a degenerative disease. Narcissism has gradual corrosive impact on cognitive faculties, cognitive ability.
Your brain change with time?
I don't know if probably, but there are no studies, so I can't say. But I mentioned Donald Trump. Yes. Look at Donald Trump. Look at Donald Trump 40 years ago
Mm.
or 30 years ago. It was a different person.
It's completely right.
He was charming. He was funny. He was whatever you may think of him. He's not a great genius, but he was charming. He was funny. He was energetic. He was. Look at him now. He's president of the United States, but he's bitter. He's angry.
His wife didn't change a lot. She's quite the same.
Yeah,
30 years ago, but he changed a lot.
But look at him. He's no longer funny. He's not funny in a good way. He's funny aggressively, violently funny. He's not. He's bitter. He's angry all the time. You could say that this is an unhappy man. He pretends to be very happy, but from time to time he says, "Smart people don't like me," or "I know you hate me." Or so.
That's true.
He's inside. He's decaying. He's decomposing. He's dying inside. And that is very common to all narcissists. You either pay a price externally or internally, and very often both. As you grow old, your capacity to attract narcissistic supply declines.
Of course.
If you used to use your body to attract supply, for example, with sexual conquest and so on, it becomes difficult. If your cognition was amazing, if you're truly brilliant and a genius and so on, it becomes more difficult.
And your targets are naive when they are 20 years old. They are less naive when they are 50, 60,
and
or 70.
there is the situation that now everyone knows about narcissism, narcissistic supply. It's more difficult now, and you will be easily identified as a narcissist and so on. But even if you put that aside, objectively, your assets depreciate. You're not as handsome. You're not as healthy. You're not as sharp as you used to be. You're not, so it's also difficult to attract supply. Gradually, what most narcissists do, they isolate themselves and they begin to self-supply. They become even more delusional because narcissism is a fantasy. Narcissism is rejection, renouncing reality, and narcissism is a falsification of realities, impaired reality. When you're old, you stay at home and you supply yourself, becoming your own narcissistic source of supply. And that's
own fantasy.
Totally self-contained delusion that no one has access to, and reality is totally ignored. And you become, in my view and in Kernberg's view and others, you become really indistinguishable from psychotic. Indistinguishable from psychotic. Also,
Maybe
behavior patterns become psychotic. You are less orderly, you dress less well, you don't groom, so you're neglected. Psychotic people are like that. They don't.
Very psychotic.
Yeah.
We have only 55 minutes left.
Sam, thanks a lot
Thank you
for
so
your,
much.
for
Thank
your
you so
time
much, Sam.
today.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
an honor after all these years to meet you in person.
Thank you for having me.
And have a good time in Paris.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We wish you
Thank
the
so
best.
much.
Thank you, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Good?